If you love Ladner, Steveston, orcas, or salmon, there's a project that you need to hear about. So let's talk about it. Tilbury LNG is a small facility that the fracking and gas company, FortisBC, wants to expand beyond recognition. The project has an expansion license to be able to export polluting methane up to, or maybe more than, 50 tankers per year. Now, Fortis is saying that the methane is for here, it's for use in homes and for industry that's local. But then why do they have this export license? Methane leaks from pipes, tanks, tankers, anything that's supposed to contain it or burn it. There's a little bit of methane that seems to be escaping into the atmosphere. And that's a big deal because methane is incredibly polluting. It is more than 80 times more potent in the atmosphere than CO2. This project is a dangerous maneuver by corporations to keep us all hooked on gas and to undermine the important wins that the environmental movement has secured. Right now, there is a comment period on, open until March 3rd, that you can participate and make a difference in. We know in the past that we have helped make projects better and leave the bad ones in the dust. A safe and stable energy future that is climate safe and healthy for all of us is totally possible, but only if we speak up in moments when it matters, like this one. All right, folks, so here's the website, epic.engage. You can see it here. We'll have it linked as well in the description. This is where you can go for all things Tilbury Phase 2 LNG expansion from the perspective of the government. Here is sort of a fun infographic about where we are in the process. You can see this icon is referring to this comment period. On the right here, we have documents. The application summary is where I went to take a look at what the proponent, what Fortis is saying about the project and the claims that they're making. And I noted some things that they're leaving out. So take a look at that. I will warn you, it is long. There are details about the process in here, and then you can sign up for updates from the government, but you can also sign up with Stand.earth. If you follow any of our social channels, we'll have more, or if you sign up via email, we'll be sending you more details about how to engage in this process. And as we scroll down, we've got a map and share your thoughts. So this is the thing that we're going to have you click on here. A pop-up's going to come up saying verify your email address, and you have to agree to the terms of service. So I'm going to put in our shipping address, hit submit, and then it gives you this note here about how the link that will come to your email is valid for 24 hours. And they can resend you a link, so if you want to go in, copy down the questions, go away, think about the documents, just make sure that you return before March 3rd when this part of the comment period for the project closes, and that way you can take some time, but you can also take a look. We're going to go through the questions and you can write down any notes that you have as well. All right, so the next step is to go to your email inbox. This is what the email that you're looking for is going to look like. It will come from Public Engagement BC. So you haven't received it after a few minutes, do make sure to check your spam for this address. And check it because it's got this all-important link here to provide your feedback. There is some more details here about if you do click the link, if you do let 24 hours pass, what you can do to complete your feedback. But we're also going to go through the questions here in the next step. So you should really be prepared. Make sure, though, that if you do plan and put this aside until later to go away and think about it, the deadline is March 3rd, so you got to get your comments in before then. The process will be closed. This kind of process is got a lot of hoops to jump for, and it's being made kind of weird on purpose. The government is really afraid that bots are going to participate. And okay, but that is adding extra barriers to genuine concerned humans and residents and visitors to the area who have good things to say about why this process should be changed, why this project shouldn't go ahead at all. All right, so now I've clicked the link and it takes me to this tab. You can see that first they're asking some demographic questions. So I am going to go through to show you the questions to make sure that you can prepare for when you do and get your own link and sit down to do this. So we're going to pretend that I'm more than 95 years old. And I just want to point out on the where do you live question, it could be that you don't live near the project but are interested for another reason. That's perfectly acceptable in this EAO process. But if you do live in the project area, maybe you're in Richmond, maybe you're in Delta, or if you could be affected because of your business, all of this is fine. If you do click other, you will need to explain yourself a little bit. So I'm going to say that I don't live near the project, but I'm interested for another reason. This isn't particularly true, but this is what I'm going to show you for the purposes of showing you. So then we get into the application, and these are questions about specific aspects of the application. This is where you want to put in your comments, where the EAO is asking you to put in your notes, things that you're worried about. So I noticed that the project does not include a lot about orcas, about the marine impacts, or about the cost of living. So I'm going to put in some comments about fish and fish habitat here. Now they do have all of the documents here that you can take a look at in a summary and a full technical chapter. So if you haven't had a chance to sit down with the comments yet, you can do a little last minute research here. All of this is also available on that first page that we showed you in the project documents. So I'm going to click fish and fish habitat and then scroll down. A little pop-out box will appear here. Please describe with as much detail as possible what information the fish and fish habitat chapter is missing, inaccurate, and incomplete. And I will say the project shares a facility with an approved marine jetty where LNG exports can happen via tankers, increased storage, needs to be assessed with the increase in tankers and impacts on the Salish Sea, endangered salmon and orcas, and community enjoyment of the Fraser. And then there's also a comment here. Do you have any feedback, positive or negative, about a project that is not listed in one of the chapters above? So I'm going to say yes, and I'm going to say the project will significantly increase the bills for ratepayers and Fortis customers and is harmful to cost of living. You can say whatever you would like. You don't have to make the same comments as I do. I do want to point out that I haven't put any personal information in here. I have not identified whether or not I am a ratepayer or a Fortis customer. I'm just making the comment that, hey, this is going to be a problem for this. The EAO is really concerned about privacy. These comments will be published publicly. It takes a little while. It's not instantaneous, but they don't want for any privacy breaches to be happening as a result of this process. So they may hide, or they may not be happy with your comments if you include sort of like, hey, this is my name and address, and these are who I buy my products from. They don't want to see that kind of thing. So make sure that you're reducing any kind of personal information or something that would fall under privacy claims. I am just going to scroll back up so you can take a look at all the different areas to comment on. These are the subject sections in the document headers. So all of this information is available at the Tilbury website, or at the EPIC website that I showed you at the beginning, and that we will link to in the comments and in the description. So then we hit next. And then there's a lot of questions from the EAO about the outreach for this process, about how you might have found out or not found out about it. So this is the EAO kind of doing their homework about their own process. So newspaper advertisements, did you see about this or hear about this? I'm not sure. I'm going to hit not sure on all of these just for expediency in the tutorial. If you saw newspaper advertisements, let the EAO know that. If you saw online advertising, let them know that. If you saw radio advertising, let them know that. If you didn't see any of those, let them know that. So I think if you hit other, a pop-out box will provide here. What other methods do you think are effective in spreading the word? I will say environmental not-for-profits, like Stand.earth. And then we can talk about, here the EAO is asking about how would you prefer for information to be shared, summaries of information, like what you're doing now. I'm again going to just click through not sure to illustrate to you all what sort of the point is of these. This is the EAO receiving information from us about their own process. And then we'll hit next. And then there's an option for final thoughts. So thank you, EAO is saying thank you to us for providing feedback. And this is really a help to the EAO to provide and conduct a more thorough assessment. So I'm going to stop the video here and point you to some other resources to help you. In your experience, you're going to hit next here and go on to speak about some of your previous engagement experience, and then closing, they'll confirm it with you. Make sure that you reward yourself after clicking on that link and hitting your final submit button. In order to make sure that your comment gets considered, there's a couple of things that I'd like to really emphasize. One is, don't put in any personal information. The assessment office has big concerns about privacy and is going to edit out stuff about people's postal codes or place of work, or maybe even what their profession is. And so you can say things like, oh, I live near it, or I grew up going to Dees Slough and that's a public area that's going to be near this project, or that you're in the medical field, or whatever the case may be. But make sure that you're not doing anything that the environmental assessment office would have to use to remove your comment from the process or edit it out. Do sit down and think about what your concerns are and what's important to you in this project area. Are you someone who really appreciates orca and that salmon is really important to your family? Talk about those things. Talk about how they're not mentioned in the project. There's a lot that's missing from the assessment package, and so we can have this moment to really impact the environmental assessment's view and raise concerns now before it becomes harder to make changes to the project and harder for the assessment office to put in new conditions. The next step in the process is for the assessment office to come back and to suggest conditions for the environmental certificate, and those conditions can be just about anything that's within their jurisdiction. So this is a provincial and a federal jurisdiction, which could be a lot. We have the opportunity to really make sure that this project is as best as it could be, and to make sure that the bad things or the poor components really get left in the dust. For the sake of our oceans, our climate, our communities, we cannot let this project go unchallenged. There's a lot of different ways to take action. Check out our petition. We have a blog here with tons of information. And we also have a tool that allows you to easily send a letter to politicians who also are going to have a say in this process. There's so many different ways to get involved, and we're here to have you as part of all of them. So check out the links in the description and follow for more.